In The Lion King 2: Simba's Pride, Disney fans were introduced to an entirely new pride of lions, led by the villainous Zira and her children Nuka, Vitani, and Kovu. The only thing is, many fans speculate that none of them were actually her cubs by birth. Well, if that theory turned out to be true, then there's a good chance that one of the cubs in particular had a strong connection to Simba's family. It's starting to look like Vitani's story might tell us the truth about what really happened at Pride Rock before Simba returned. According to this theory, Vitani had the right to feel hatred toward Simba, Nala, and the rest of the Pride because Nala had been her biological mother who abandoned her once Simba returned and ousted Scar. Now, I want to make it clear that I'm not trying to villainize Nala. This theory is more so showing how she lived out the circle of life that real lions follow in the wild, and with the case of the Lion King, nobody is entirely innocent in that regard. That being said, if this theory is accurate and Vitani was actually Nala's daughter, it admittedly brings a lot of questions along with it. But believe it or not, they can all be answered. Whether that means the theory is true or not is up to you though, so let's start with the biggest question I'm sure you have. If Nala was Vitani's mother, then who was her father? Even though there wasn't any mention in The Lion King 2 that Scar had any actual descendants, if Vitani was Nala's child as this theory suggests, then it seems likely that Scar would have been her father. Most fans assume that at least Nuka and Vitani were Scar's children, with the biggest debate typically being over Kovu's lineage. But fans rarely talk about who Vitani's mother might be simply because it's commonly assumed that it was Zira. Well, according to this theory, Zira only acted as the adoptive mother for Scar's children, and, at least as far as Vitani was concerned, her mother was arguably the strongest lioness in the whole Pride, Nala. That leads to a very big question though, being, why would someone like Nala ever have a child with a tyrannical leader like Scar? Well, unfortunately, the short answer is that she probably didn't have a choice. In fact, there's a very disturbing scene that was cut from the original Lion King movie and didn't end up on the screen. It was meant to be another version of the Be Prepared scene where Scar realized that he needed an heir, so he quickly turned his attention to Nala and made some pretty creepy advances toward her. Now, it's only natural for the dominant male lion in a pride to want to extend his bloodline, but when you think about it, that spells out some horrible things for the lionesses in the pride, especially the strong-willed and young ones like Nala. But even if Vitani was Scar's child, why is it safe to assume that Nala was her mother rather than Zira? There are a few reasons actually, including the fact that Nala and Vitani seem to have an unspoken past when the two interacted in the second movie. Toward the latter half of the movie, during the attack on Pride Rock by the Outlanders, Vitani has a moment when she lashes out toward Nala by bringing up Kiara in a malicious tone. All she said in the scene was, "Where's your pretty daughter, Nala?" But based on the way she said it and the enunciation that she used when speaking the words pretty daughter, you can easily feel that there was true hatred in her voice, almost as if to say, where's the daughter that turned out to be good enough for you to keep? It's as if she felt spite toward Kiara without ever actually meeting the lioness that might be her half-sister, according to this theory. On top of that, Vitani was also shown to have fur that was identical to Nala's in terms of color. I know that might not seem too strange because at first glance most of the lions in The Lion King look very similar, but most of them tend to have slightly different shades of fur and different colors of eyes. And speaking of eye color, if you look closely, both Nala and Vitani had eyes that were similar shades of blue. Now that doesn't mean for certain that Nala was Vitani's mother, but genetically speaking, the two certainly shared some similarities. And here's the real kicker. If Nala was Vitani's mother, why didn't she grow up in the Pride Lands with Kiara and Kion? Well, there are a few reasons why Vitani could have ended up being raised by another lioness like Zira, rather than by the one who birthed her. The first and most obvious reason, in my opinion, is that Nala chose to hide that she was pregnant once she was reunited with Simba, and then gave the cub to Zira in order to keep her a secret. Now, if the theory is accurate, this of course would mean that Nala was pregnant with Scar's child before she left the Pride Lands in the first movie. This would actually track with the character's reason for leaving in the Broadway interpretation of the story. Not that Nala was considered pregnant in the Broadway play, but her entire reason for leaving the Pride Lands in that version of the story was to find a better place for her and the Pride to live. With the land around them becoming desolate and barren, Nala knew that she needed to save Sarabi and the other lionesses. So with the blessing of the Pride, she went out searching for something better. However, if this theory is true, she wasn't just looking for a safer place to live, but she was also looking for an escape from the villainous lion that was using her to have his cubs. Thankfully, she ended up finding a similar lion that she had loved since her childhood, Simba. After finding their true heir to Pride Rock and helping Simba remove Scar from his position, Nala would have had some things to work out if she wanted to be Simba's queen, but happened to be pregnant with Scar's cub. Vitani? Well, according to one version of this theory, she chose to keep her pregnancy a secret from Simba, and when it came time to have the cubs, she gave her to the only lioness that would take her away from the Pride Lands, Zira. Scar's most loyal follower likely wouldn't have taken the young cub in out of the kindness of her heart, though. If Nala was Vitani's mother, then Zira would have probably only raised her for two reasons. The first being that she knew she could use Vitani as leverage against Nala when it was finally time for the Outlanders to attack the Pride Lands. Or two, she needed the numbers. The more outsiders that Zira had in her pride, the safer and stronger that all of them would be. That's just one theory, though. The other reason that Nala may have given up Vitani when she was a cub might not have been because she wanted to, but because she had to. You see, I mentioned before how Scar would have been trying very hard to have an heir or multiple heirs of his own. As the dominant male lion in a pride, he would want the majority, if not all of the cubs, to be his, which is why this theory suggests that he and Nala may have had a child together in the first place. Well, Simba wouldn't have been any different, even though he was supposed to be the good guy. Again, I'm not trying to paint Simba in a bad light here, but when he became the king of Pride Rock, he, like any other male lion, would have wanted to father the next generation of cubs, while at the same time getting rid of any cubs belonging to the previous king. Now, it's doubtful that he would outright try to kill any of the cubs like a lion would in the wild. Instead, he likely told them to take a hike with the rest of Scar's supporters. The thing is, this would have been Nala's chance to speak up about Vitani and maybe raise her as her own. But according to this theory, she kept quiet, and thus the young cub was banished with the rest of them and ultimately raised by Zira. Now, you have to remember that almost all of this is just speculation based on how lions act in the wild and the very brief interactions between Nala and Vitani in The Lion King 2. But no matter how you look at it, the similarities between the two lionesses are uncanny. But do you think Vitani could ever forgive Nala and Simba for casting her out with the rest of Scar's followers? Thankfully, because of the Lion Guard, fans got to see that Vitani actually had a very happy ending to her story. According to the show, while Kion and his fellow Lion Guard members were out in search of the Tree of Life to heal a young lion, someone had to step up and protect the Pride Lands. Well, after the Outlanders attacked and many of them switched over to Simba's side in the conflict, including Vitani, the young cub slowly asserted herself as the new protector of the Pride Lands. Interestingly enough, she and her newly formed Lion Guard actually mistook Kion and his Lion Guard as if they were outsiders and attacked them before things were cleared up, and it was revealed that Vitani had joined their pride. At first, Kion and Vitani were at odds with each other as they were trying to determine how two Lion Guards could survive in the Pride Lands, but eventually Vitani proved that she could be a true leader. Because of events that were going on in his own life, Kion passed on the roar of the elders to Vitani and handed over his role as the leader of the Lion Guard as well. Vitani gratefully accepted the role, and by the end of the show, she seemed truly happy as she was finally surrounded by lions that she could call family. On top of that, if this theory proves to be true, then Vitani would have been reunited with her actual family by the end of The Lion King 2 and was clearly thriving happily among them. What do you think, though? Is there a chance that Vitani was actually Nala's cub who was raised by the Outlanders? Be sure to let me know in the comments below.